Hi everybody, welcome. Thank you for coming along today. This is session 4. We're changing channels, moving between genres and roles. My name is Heather. I am actually a massive fraud. I don't work in film or TV. However, I do work in... Did somebody just boo? How dare you? A man, no doubt. So I work as Channel 4's senior digital producer for branded content. So I work explicitly in digital content. So if anybody wants to chat about that, I'm sure that might come up a little bit later as well. But that's what I do and why I'm here today. I'm going to be moderating. So I'm going to be taking these gorgeous gals through their paces, and we're going to ask them questions, hopefully find out a little bit more about their careers. We really want to focus on, working across scripted, unscripted, and any other roles that people have kind of transitioned into, pivoted into, that's made their careers really full and rich and entertaining and interesting. So hopefully you're all up for that. What else do I need to tell you? There is a QR code. This wasn't on my script. This was new information for me. We've got a little QR code in the top corner, so if anybody wants to ask a question, you can get in and do that. That'd be great. We do have some time for questions at the end, so if you've got a little bubbling thought, hold on to it, and we'll catch you at the end. On the panel today, we have Lindsay, Celeste, Zara, and Alison. I'm not going to introduce you guys because you guys will do a substantially better job at it than I ever will. So Lindsay, I'll start with you.
Hello. So I work in factual and in scripted. So in factual, I'm a producer, director, and edit producer. And in scripted, I work as a line producer. Do you want me to go into my previous, how I got there, or?
No, that's fine. Just a little top line.
Oh my gosh, that was so quick. Now I'm really nervous about getting to mine. I find it really difficult doing this, so bear with me. I'm trying to get my elevator pitch sorted. But I work in scripted, non-scripted. I am a journalist, a presenter, producer, director, a videographer, pretty much working the full gamut. But I started in news, so I was a news presenter. Now I write comedy, and I'm an actress. I was in Half Man. I've worked with the New York Times and The Guardian. I write a column in The Sun, and have just written an episode of CBBC show Gifted, which I know Arabella is here later on from Black Camel, and so I was a writer on that, but do lots and lots of different jobs in TV, in radio, and in film, and then a little bit more on top of that.
Celeste, you've got your own mic. Wonderful.
I came prepared. Work in production, bring home mic. I am Celeste. I am currently a production coordinator in high-end TV and film, moving up to be a production manager. Prior to that, I worked in unscripted in production management as well. I have worked in post-production as post-production coordinator. So yeah, I worked a little bit all over the place.
So as you can tell, we've got an exceptional panel who are going to give us lots of wonderful advice. We're going to jump in. I often think moving into the freelance world, changing roles is kind of like running into the sea on holiday, right? You've got some people that are just straight in, like, yeah, come on, let's go. You've got some other people that are maybe getting shoved in from the side. Lindsay, maybe we can start with you. When you first were like, freelance, this is what was it a conscious decision? Is it something you moved into gently? What was the vibe?
Early in my career, I just wanted to get into the industry. I don't think there was a lot of strategizing. It was just like, I need to get my foot in the door. And my first couple of jobs, I wasn't freelance. I was working for Glasgow Media Access Centre. So I was their short film coordinator. And then I worked as a production manager at a production company. I was there for quite a long time. And then I wanted to leave that company, and I had to make the jump to being freelance. And I was, it's scary. And your mum goes, how are you going to afford that? Like, how long is this job? And you're like, oh, it's like 6 weeks. What happens after that? Oh, I don't know. So it was scary to start with, but I love it. I'm a bit of a commitment phobe now, I think. So I love jumping from one job to the other. And being able to do one type of job in one part of the industry and another type of job in another, yeah.
That's actually leading us on perfectly. Zara, you have said that you think the single most important thing in the media landscape is adaptivity and not specialism. Why do you think that?
Okay, so when I first started, I didn't have any background experience in broadcast at all, but I was a journalist and I got a job working at STV, which I would thoroughly recommend to anyone to join a newsroom where we were basically putting together shows with sticky tape and shoestring, and Joe's here and he's nodding, so he's worked. Joe, hi Joe. But we didn't have any budget, and so you sort of got thrown into doing everything. And I started writing online actually with STV, and I was very lucky that there was a woman called Andrea Brimer. She was the lead anchor in the Aberdeen newsroom, and she saw me and said, I can see you're staying late, you're doing the autocue, you're, picking up cameras. Nothing that we have internally is going to move you into broadcast. Let me help you. And she actually took me into the news studio after the lunchtime news and helped me to record show reels. And it was those show reels that helped me secure my first job as a news presenter on STV. And once you're in that environment, I mean, you do become Mr. Boom. I feel like that Mr. Boom, do you know the Edinburgh Festival guy? He does everything, plays all the instruments. And that's what I felt like by the end, because we launched the local channels. And so I was not just presenting, I moved then into daytime shows. We were doing wildlife, I was doing cookery. They then said, we need someone to become a video journalist. How would you feel about learning how to do those skills? And I said, yeah, great, that sounds good to me, because it's all about, adding value to what you can currently do. And for me, that was like the entry trick was, once I can do that, what else is available to me? And once I was doing that, it was easier to produce. And there were all these skills I had. So by the time I left, which I was made redundant after about 7 years, I was then able to go to London and start producing This Morning, the ITV daytime show. And I then started a sort of my own production company, making documentaries all over the world. And I was able to self-shoot and PD and to do everything. And when I think about the directions that my career's taken, I'm not a trained actress, but for some reason I'm doing satire and impressions on a show. It's called Noising Up. It's been on Radio Scotland for we've had 5 seasons of it. And someone said, if you're doing stand-up comedy, I did that because I thought I want to pivot. So how can I pivot? And getting access to different sectors, if you're looking at even genres, it is sort of thinking, well, I don't have any experience there, so how can I do something that shows an expressed interest? And that's what I took from that position, actually working with STV, was once you have a little bit of experience, if you show a bit of willing, if something excites you or interests you, it becomes that easy to pivot. I didn't stay doing stand-up comedy for that long, but it did really open up the industry for me. And so much so that when I had first moved to London, I'm not going to say who it was, but there was a production company that I had a meeting with, and they thought I was ridiculous for saying I wanted to work in comedy. They said, everything you've done until now is news and daytime. What on earth makes you think that you could move and you could pivot and do this? And I said, thank you very much, and walked out and thought, I'm going to bloody do this. And I thought, what else can I do to try and pivot? And so I wrote a sitcom, and I put it in for a competition. It was the BBC Comedy Writers' Room, and I very fortunately got through. And that was my major pivot into then comedy writing sitcoms, writing TV shows. But that's what had made me think that, skills, it's all about skills and expressed interest. Once you can do a little bit of that, then it becomes a bit easier.
Not just because you said you worked in comedy, but do you feel like a lot of the stuff you're talking about, I think some people might be sitting there being like, that's terrifying. Like, how do you just is it haunted? Do you think it's a bit of a feel the fear and do it anyway? Do you not feel any fear? What's the vibe?
Thank you. I hope the ghost likes this answer. But I don't know. I think it's just, I think when you work in live environments, you get used to dealing with those horrible feelings quite often, and you get used to just kind of working towards that. And, I don't want to say, no, I will say it. Being made redundant from STV was the best thing that ever happened to me. It really was, because, you're kind of out of your comfort zone, and that's sort of what it's all about, is you see that kind of growth that happens, and nobody likes change. Nobody likes it when it happens. I know it's happening a lot at the BBC at the moment. So I have a lot of colleagues there who are going through redundancies and facing uncertain times. And I think Tony Robbins has a quote. I mean, I'm sorry that I'm quoting Tony Robbins, but it's the quality of life you have is in direct relation to how uncertain or how much uncertainty you can comfortably live with. And I do think about that quite a lot, because the more you push yourself into those bits that make you feel like your stomach's going to fall out your backside, I think that's quite a nice feeling to have. Or to overcome it is a nice feeling to have.
Yes. I think as well, like most projects you go into, there will be something different or new that you're learning anyway. So it does feel like slightly unfair to be like, oh, you can do this. It's so different. It's not. It's all the same stuff at the end of the day. Lindsay, I had a question for you. You talked before about having a really diverse CV, and especially when you're talking about things on LinkedIn, which I think we all know trying to get famous on LinkedIn is a slog, but we got to do it. How do you find, or how are you finding the kind of how you talk about yourself online with regards to making sure that the right people are saying, and like you might not have an answer, but I think it's just such an interesting topic.
So yeah, that's something I think about and struggle with. So I've pivoted a couple of times in my career. I started off working as a coordinator in feature films, but I really wanted to get into factual TV. So I tried really hard to get into factual TV, and I kept getting told, but you've never worked in factual TV, so you can't, blah. And eventually someone took a punt on me and said, well, it was Ross Harper, who was at IWC at the time, said, well, you've worked with actors, you can work with presenters, come and work on Extreme Fishing. So that was my pivot. And at that point, I kind of wiped all the drama off my CV, because it just was too weird for people to look at those skills and go, you can transfer them. So I wiped all of those credits off, and then more recently I've gone back to drama, so I had to dig out all those credits. So I have lots of versions of my CV. I have a factual TV CV, I have a drama CV, I have one that's a mishmash of everything, and my LinkedIn has all my credits on it. And I don't know, and I think about this, if putting all my credits on my LinkedIn is a good thing, if it shows that I'm a well-rounded, experienced film and TV professional, or if when I say, I'm line producing this, if the factual, I've had people coming up to me saying, I hear you've left factual TV, and I'm like, no, I was just over here doing this thing, but I'm still available for work in factual. So I don't know if having all those credits in one place is a good thing or not a good thing. I do struggle with that kind of personal branding. Answers. Yeah, go on.
Can I just say something off the back of that? I just hoof everything up and just expect everyone to deal with the chaos. I don't know. I feel like as long as I understand what I'm doing, I don't really think too much about how it's being perceived. And I actually do think a lot more people are forgiving, or not, forgiving is so the wrong word, it's accepting. I think people quite like to see the variety of things you're doing, because it's not actually very natural for us just to do one thing. This is a very relatively recent human construct, this idea of like taking one job or working on one sector and just doing the one thing. Even I think of like in 200 BC, someone like Archimedes, he was an inventor. He worked across mathematics, and he did so many things. He was like this incredible multi-hyphenate that existed thousands of years. It's just crazy to me that this is the life that we've built now, is that we expect people just to stay in their lane. And I bloody hate when people tell me, isn't it the worst thing when people say stay in your lane?
So I have something to add to that. My CV has been non-scripted and scripted, and it still has non-scripted jobs while I've been doing scripted stuff. And prior to that, I worked in a call centre, and I worked in all the crazy retail jobs that you've done. And I've worked in hotels and things. They're just a line on my CV now. It is primarily all credits, but I do a lot of hiring in my job. And when I look at someone's CV and they do have that diversity of roles, even roles not in the industry, for example, someone who's worked in a garage, who's worked in retail, who's worked in a hotel, those skills are transferable into scripted and non-scripted. And I love a CV that has variety, because it shows you that a person is willing to learn, they're willing to get stuck in, and they want to try new things. This industry is always changing, and that is one of the key things, is we have to adapt. And I love a CV that has that variety.
I think it's definitely more common nowadays that people will work a little bit harder to see the transferable skills, I think, because the industry's changing so much and we have to change with it. So I think that is something that's a bit easier to kind of display, that you have these skills in different parts of the industry.
And if anybody does need to leave to get a baby grand piano delivered, please feel free to go at any point. Something I just think is so interesting is like when you're in this new role and you're like, oh, if I hadn't done that previous role and then pivoted into this new role, I would never have been able to like figure this out. Like adaptability is something that's so important, especially as you were saying with like the industry changing so much. Does anybody have any examples of something semi-recently that they're really like excited the fact that they have had previous experience from somewhere else that's been such a direct informing moment on this new I'm really throwing a question out there and I can see you're feeling good. Okay, cool. I thought it was I said no difficult questions and you were looking at me like I was asking a difficult question. Does anybody want to go first?
It's amazing. Sorry, thank you. It's amazing how you sort of, when you do things, sometimes you think, oh, well, that's dead or that's gone or that's just a closed chapter. Because for me, working in news, initially starting off in the news sector and being a news journalist, going from that to, honestly, I was performing as Callie Kardashian, which is as awful as you think it sounds, a makeup influencer and doing comedy and like character comedy. And I thought, there's no way back to that ever. There's no way there's no way that a news team is ever going to say, let's get you on the news. I mean, I'm encouraged by, is it Miriam, who's doing a lot of like really odd stuff on, is it ITV News? She's a news presenter that's known for her bloopers and having a lot of fun. And I'm thinking, oh, maybe there's a way back. But for me, it was casting. Casting was really interesting because when you join like Spotlight, a casting profile, you create a casting profile, you put on all your experience and special skills and what have you. And the number of times I've played a journalist on screen, Karen Perry, that's where we first met. I was a journalist in Karen Perry and have been cast again as a journalist, and I just think that's hilarious that even exists. But over the years, I mean, I did a master's in journalism, which got me into journalism rather than into television. But before that, I had done an undergrad in business, which I just thought was such a Mickey Mouse degree and I was never going to use. And now I sit on a board with NatWest, their ethnicity advisory board. And I think that is just incredible that I have this business experience and this business background that has brought me to that juncture. But actually, with the news presenting stuff, it's still constantly, this is sort of why I'm a big believer in putting things on social media. And I think everyone needs to do a lot more self-promotion because I prolifically just post and whap everything up online and just say, oh, look what I'm up to and look what I'm doing. And I had a sort of brain fart and said, oh God, I'd love to do news presenting again. I wonder if there's ever any opportunities. And a casting company saw that and said, oh, we might have an opportunity for you as a newsreader in a film. And I was like, okay, you can tell me a little more about it. And when I got in touch with them, we had a chat through, and it's a film with Whoopi Goldberg. And it'll be filming next year, and I'm so excited about it that I might not be a news presenter again, but I certainly get to play at it, and it's an experience that feeds in and definitely informs what I do now. So I guess, from that, the biggest lesson is always just whap it up on social media and tell people what you're doing.
Agreed. Is everyone fairly active on LinkedIn? A real mixed bag out there, guys. I saw that little, that is the face of I know I should, but I don't want to. And I feel that, my friend, don't you worry. Obviously, transitioning into a new role or pivoting in your career can be quite daunting. And there's a lot of training available for people. I know a lot of you have done training yourselves. I read something interesting in your little bio that was sent to me about just the kind of business element that actually you did some training, and it was like about negotiating, and that's the thing you found most interesting as like a skill. Can you tell us a bit about that?
Yeah. Absolutely. So one of the best bits of advice that I have really is to enter competitions. So if you want to do something with writing competitions, the more that you're on shortlists for whatever it is, people will open your emails. And I was highly commended at the Women of the Future Awards for a lot of the humanitarian work I do. So I make films all over the world in Guatemala, Nepal, Tanzania, and that's the sort of little niche that I have that's kind of not about me and that's not me on camera, and I think that might get me into heaven one day. So I'll just keep doing that. But that opened up a great opportunity for me to join the Women of the Future network. So it's sponsored by Oxford University and the Financial Times, and the woman who runs it is an incredible woman called Pinky Lilani, and she's one of the most powerful women in the world. Honestly, this woman can make anything happen. So she had organised for all the women who had been shortlisted to attend Oxford University and to do negotiating skills. And my God, it's been so useful for me because I don't have an agent. I don't ask anyone else to do negotiating on my behalf when it comes to contracts. The first time I ever got a writing contract through an option for a show I'd written, it was like 22 pages. And I was looking through this thinking, oh my God, what am I going to do if I don't have an agent to sort of tell me what the landscape is? And I think I spent about a week looking on LexisNexis and trying to download stuff and speak to people. It took me a really long time, but actually in the process of doing that, at least I understood what the legal terms were. And I spend a lot of time negotiating my own contracts, which is, an interesting perspective and can be interesting sometimes when things go wrong. If I'm working on live events or working in television and things don't happen the way they should, getting comfortable with making that move to have the awkward conversation and to say, let's have a chat and let's renegotiate the fee or let's look at the terms, and being able to switch between that and, hi, I'm so happy to be here, I'm the talent. You have to kind of switch a little bit between them. But negotiating skills is really interesting. So I think quite often when I'm looking at contracts for work and we're discussing fees, there's a thing called, you look at BATNA and WATNA. What's your best alternative to negotiated agreement? So I'm a big believer of not leaving money on the table. And sometimes it's really hard to cost up jobs. So how do you decide what to charge? And I know, Juno's quite good at publishing. It's a freelancer website you can go onto, and it publishes lots of freelance rates. But if you don't really know the freelance rate and you're working freelance, then how on earth are you supposed to cost up jobs sometimes? It's really difficult to determine that if you can't have the conversations. So, go in as high as you like and say, if this doesn't meet your budget, then let's have a conversation and let's see what else we can do. And if they come back and say, oh my God, that's way more than we possibly imagined, I tend to do things like say, well, what else can we do? Can you insert me into the PR? Can we do headshots? Will you have a photographer there? Is this happening? Make a list of everything that you could negotiate with, so that then if they don't come in on price, then you can at least make it look like, I'm giving away way too many secrets here, that you were quite happy to negotiate on fee for these other things that sometimes you would have asked for anyway once you signed the contract. But having a real think about where you can move around, especially when it comes to fees, I think is really interesting. What else can you get if it's not financial?
I'll throw the question over to this side as well, because I know you guys have done some interesting training. Celeste, you did some training, didn't you?
Yeah, I've done recently. A couple of years ago, I did the Step Up to Production Manager training with Screen Skills, which is actually, although I've not got full production manager credits just yet, I've done some pickup credits and things like that. That skill set has let me get jobs that have not got that role, but it's let me take on that experience within a TV job or something like that. And recently I've actually completely pivoted and did virtual production fellowship with Final Pixel and Night Sky Studios. I did their new hybrid course. That was an 8-week course of learning how we integrate virtual production. And I did it for a production side and learned the producing for virtual production. And that was fascinating for me because, yes, we're integrating this new skill into film and TV, but it's got its own entity in terms of production. And that was just like another skill set. And I'm very big thing of do training. I also did resilience and management training recently as well. And these are all things that are vital for working in television and film, but also in any role in media. It's all just building your skill set and making yourself, as you say, like, how do you sell yourself? If you've got more things in your bag, you can get more roles out of it. So yeah.
Lindsay, I did have a question for you, and it's complete. Oh, when you were talking about pastoral care and kind of, passing it on to the next generation, you were saying that you have people reach out to you looking for advice. Is there anything you'd be willing to share of kind of like maybe something that's recurring that people are asking, or any advice that you find yourself kind of gifting out to the world on a regular basis?
I think, sometimes when people reach out to me, it's me that learns more than I'm passing on quite often. I think the fact that people are reaching out, that's the main thing. Networking's everything in our business. And reaching out, having a cup of tea, just getting to know people. You might work with someone this year and in 3 years' time, they're going to be the one that's employing you. So it's just trying to make connections constantly, I think, is one of the main things. And then just going back to training, like I fill all of my time constantly. He knows that. So if I'm not working, I'm looking for how can I improve my skills? How can I meet people? How can I put myself out there? And taking the opportunity to do training courses is not just about the things that you learn on the course, it's about the people that you meet doing those courses. So like a couple of years ago, I did the TRC series producer course. And one of the best things is the people that you meet on it. Some of them are here today. Having a cohort, a gang of buddies that are, working in a similar part of the industry is, that's vital. You've got the support, you've got the network, you've got people saying, oh, this job's coming up, I couldn't do this, is anyone else available? So I think go out, meet people, get yourself on the training schemes, keep in touch with people. That would be my advice.
Fabulous, thank you. We have 8 minutes on the dot to go. I just wanted to check if there's been any questions that we can throw to in this last huzzah.
Yeah, we've got a couple. The first one that you touched on, does gatekeeping play a part in people not being able to move to a different role?
Anyone want to take that, gatekeeping?
It's a funny one. I do think, as we were at the talk earlier on, a lot of the time for roles and getting jobs in this industry is about the people you know. You're only as good as the last job you did in this industry. Everyone knows everyone talks. And a lot of the time you find now we don't follow a conventional interview process. Jobs aren't put out to the wider market, except from if you're in a corporation and they have to because they have a HR system. We don't have HR freelancers. And a lot of the time the roles aren't put out. So there is a sense of gatekeeping because we are fighting for the same jobs. We are all trying to get our foot in the door, or you want to get on that next production. So maybe your friend won't tell you there's a job going or there's this production coming, but that shouldn't stop you from putting yourself out there. And you might find it's kind of disheartening when you find that maybe you aren't asked back to do a job that you've done series 1 and series 2 of, and you don't get asked back for the 3rd series. The same on a film where you don't get asked back to join a team. That isn't a mark on you. That's a mark on just the way the industry is. It is more about not taking it to heart and that building that sense of resilience, and that is a key skill in this industry, is to be resilient. And yes, there is a gatekeeping and there is this whole, I just want to work with my friends. Do you know what? TV gets pretty boring if you work with the same people all the time. Yes, it's great, but you don't learn anything new. You need to broaden your horizons and work with different skills. Like I moved teams quite a lot recently, and I've worked with different line producers, I've worked with different runners, and I've worked in different fields of the industry. I've moved into post-production, and every time I've done it, I've learned something new. And I think that's a big thing. And yes, people don't want to hire certain people or do this. Don't let it stop you. That's my only big take on that. And yes, there'll be gatekeeping, but you know what? That role's not for you. Why would you want to be in that job? Why would you want it? If someone doesn't want to tell you about it, go find another job. Go do it, because you know what? You'll have a better time 100%, because if that's how it starts, it's going to continue like that.
I think...
Oh, I was going to ask if there was other questions, but do you want to add on a little something?
Yeah, I was just going to add to that, like, we're only in control of ourselves. So, if you put your CV, if you send your CV to someone, you've no control over how they're going to read that. So you look for transferable skills. Someone else might just look for someone who's done the exact same job that they're advertising. I don't have control for that. So there are gatekeepers, but, we don't have control over those gatekeepers. We've only got control over the jobs that we do, the skills that we bring, how we're putting our, who we're sending our CV to, how our CV looks, and how we're demonstrating that we do have all the skills to do that job.
I think that's so important. Like, you can, like, as a freelancer with resilience, like, you can only control what you control. It's like really important. Did we have another?
We've got one last one. Is there a job or a role on the horizon that would make you stay put?
That would make you stay put.
Can I just say something? What's interesting about that question, thank you for whoever sent it in, it's just last week I had a job offer, and I've had several since becoming freelance, and it's really hard to quantify exactly what the salary would be, because I think when you become freelance, I always knew, I'll just be perfectly honest, I've been sacked 21 times, which is a lot, and I'm not a very good employee. I'm a much better client or freelancer than I ever was as an employee. I sort of enjoy, and I get more from the experience of chasing work and working for myself and having autonomy over what I choose and who I choose to work with. But an offer came in last week for a job, and I mean, the salary was fantastic, and it's more than what I'm earning now as a freelancer, and I just couldn't take it. There's nothing for me that is going to take away the idea of the freedom, and for me it's freedom that freelancing brings. It's the freedom and the flexibility that I have to choose, and the variety of work that I get from it. It's really hard to quantify what that might be. And even someone asked me, what about if it was BBC Breakfast? Would you like to be a BBC Breakfast presenter? I don't think I would be. I know, and it's just, of course I would probably want to take it for maybe 6 months or even a year and say what an amazing opportunity that would be to boost the profile. But ultimately, as a long-term job, would I see myself doing something like that for 13 years? Absolutely not. It's not, it doesn't offer me and fulfill me with what I need in life. And I think that's something that everyone has to kind of ask themselves. I think it's actually a really great question for going freelance, is what would it take to not? If you find yourself saying, oh God, I'm just doing this until I get offered a job, maybe being self-employed isn't something for you. Maybe you need a bit more certainty. But I know I work very well with a lot of uncertainty in my life, because with uncertainty comes opportunity, or something. Wasn't that what Spider-Man said? I don't know. So I think opportunity is really important for me, and just not knowing where great experiences are going to come from, and that is everything that builds up this rich tapestry of work that I do. So I'm asking myself the question, what would it take? And it has prompted me last week to have a little think about what that might be.
We were talking about this on the way in, because I am in a full-time role, and it's the longest I've ever been in it. I've been in it 5 years, and I've never had that before in my career. And I'm really lucky, really grateful. There's a lot to be thankful for, but a project came in the other day and I was like, if I was freelance, I wouldn't have to do this. So there's pros and cons to both. We have 1 minute 51 left, and I promised we would finish on time. So in a quick fire round, what's one key thing, word, phrase, mantra that you would gift out to the audience for them to take away if they are sitting, pondering, changing career or pivoting?
I always say to my team to remember that we are only making TV and film. We don't save lives. We do save it in a sense because it is a release, but when the world shut down, we shut down. So don't break your neck and put your mental health or anything like that on the line. Find that balance. Enjoy the creativity that comes with working in this industry, but look after yourself. That is number one priority.
Here's advice my 20s.
Turn your ideas into something tangible. Don't sit on ideas. If you've got something for a format, a TV show, whatever it might be, a podcast, whatever, turn it into a format that you can then sell. So don't sit on stuff for too long. Figure out what it's going to take to create a format that you can pitch, and just start pitching it, because there's nothing worse. I do think there's like an ideas graveyard somewhere that just all these ideas live. Turn it into something and sell it.
Because if you don't, someone else.
Well, exactly. There's nothing worse.
Yeah, I think identify what you're good at, what you want to do, work out where your skills gaps are, do some training, and meet loads of people that work in that part of the industry. Take them for a cup of tea, get some advice, make some connections, and go for it.
Oh, my God. Perfect timing. Thank you so much, Lindsay, Celeste, Sarah and Alison, for being such wonderful panellists today. Thank you all for coming. And if you are going out to think about that pivot, maybe you're in the middle of that pivot, good luck. Come back next year. Let us know how you got on. And thank you so much. Go and enjoy some sunshine.